Good morning, friends. Welcome back to Rose to Row in Astrology. I am your host, Mel Rose, and today is Monday, November 25, 2024. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for spending this time with me. And thank you for checking in on your regular current astrology. As you know, as above, so below. So if we can get a hint or a clue as to what kind of universal energies are at play right now, perhaps dropping surprises or opportunities or obstacles in our paths, then that's all the more information we have to navigate our own lives, hopefully in a safe and effective way. And I'm so happy that you're here with me on that journey. I don't know about you, but I'll take all the information I can get. And I hope wherever you are in the world today, you're feeling very happy and well and loved and blessed and whole and supported. I can say that here in beautiful but chilly Summit, Missouri, I'm feeling very happy and well and loved and blessed and whole and supported. I'm so grateful to be here with you. So before we get started, let's go ahead and like the video, give me a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. That all helps me out a lot. And if you want to, you can leave a comment down below, say hello to me so I can say hello to you. I love to hear from you guys and interact with you. Okay, so getting into today's astrology, the sun is in Sagittarius, and it just went into Sagittarius last week, so we're at the beginning of that Sagittarian vibe. Sagittarius is ruled by Jupiter, and it's very much it's mutable fire. So I think of sparklers, I think of fireworks, and I also think of this time of year, all of the Christmas lights are going out, all the holiday lights are going out, especially in the neighborhood where I live. So it's sort of a time to be lighting up the night. The nights are longer than the days right now. It's getting colder. And this is that time where we want to share that inspiration and joy and conviviality that is really so crucial to getting through this time of year. We want to be in contact with the people around us. We want to be taking action, not just to help, but to celebrate being alive at this time. So that's the sun in Sagittarius. That's where we are. It's also a time where we kind of take the stuff that we reflected on and noticed about ourselves when the sun was in Scorpio, and we start to implement it with our actions. So whatever it was that you were reflecting on with the sun in Scorpio, often that's about how we present ourselves. Are we being authentic and truthful? Are we doing the best we can to present ourselves in as authentic a way as possible? Then we take that information that we learned while the sun was in Scorpio about ourselves, and we implement it. We put it in action. We show that desire to connect and to lighten things up and to make sort of illuminate the darkness for ourselves and our fellow human beings. The moon today is a waning crescent in Libra. It's going to be new on Saturday. So we're here at the beginning of that week of the diminishing crescent moon. And the moon, and that's a time when we are really just releasing, letting go of things, forgetting about things, pushing out stuff and things, thoughts, attitudes, and dispositions that no longer serve a purpose in our creative process, so that when we get to that new moon on Saturday, we have that opportunity to come back to ourselves, come back to our center, notice how far we've come, notice what it is that we've let go, notice what we have in the moment, and then begin again to think about what we'd like to do with it, what kind of goals we would like to attain over the coming weeks and months and even years. And when the moon is in Libra, it's very much about that sense of balance, especially in our relationships, our relationship with ourselves, our relationship with stuff and things, the things we like, love, and can't get enough of, okay, because Libra is ruled by Venus, and also our relationships with other people. We want to feel like the dynamic is balanced, like we're giving as good as we get, and we're getting as good as we give. And this is a time, especially in our private lives, if that's not happening, where there's a negotiation that needs to happen, or something needs to happen, often a conversation or a plan, so that we can, strike a better balance in those relationships. So that's the sun and moon today. The rest of the backdrop for our astrology right now includes a couple of oppositions. Mercury is still in opposition to Jupiter. Mars is still in opposition to Pluto, and that one's going to go on at least through the beginning of January. Or I think it's like January 23rd that Mars will be in opposition to Pluto. So we've got that Mars retrograde coming up. We're in the Mars retrograde shadow. So first, I want to say with the Mercury opposite Jupiter, there's a tendency there to want to say too much. There's a tendency to want to maybe overstate our case, or maybe we just feel like mouthing off a little bit, and we want to try to use some practical judgment about how we're making our plans and how we're talking to other people right now, because our words can have a bigger, heavier impact than we realize they are. Maybe you're just venting and not really meaning anything by what you say, but the person on the receiving end of that doesn't get that you're venting, and they have a much bigger impact from the words you speak than than you wanted, or than you thought you were making. Okay, so just be careful about that. Realize that saying words, that's an action. Actions have consequences. Okay, so be careful to understand that there's another person on the other side of that conversation. And then Mars in opposition to Pluto is part of the reason we're being so careful, because Mars opposite Pluto, especially with Mars in the retrograde shadow, this is a frustrated, maybe even angry, very ireful kind of vibration. It can, we can feel irritated, we can feel agitated. There are those of us who are going to feel aggressive. We might have trouble, like in traffic, or just, in situations where we have to confront things that we're not happy about. Okay, so with that opposition to Pluto, it's sort of like the actions we take have really transformative consequences. And again, with that opposition, it's a conflict, it's a tension. So we might feel like we're in conflict with other people or with situations, or we might be in conflict with ourselves. But the guidance here is really, if you feel an impulse to do something aggressive, please, or say something aggressive, again, speaking words is an action, okay? Please take a beat and think about what you're about to do before you do it, because again, your words and your actions have a much bigger consequence right now than you think that they do, okay? Than you might think they do. Otherwise, there's some really good sort of ambient, ongoing weather in the astrology. We've got some cooperative stuff. Venus and Saturn are cooperating. That's, like really being drawn and attracted to and willing to take action on things that are good for us, good for our stability, good for our health and wellness, good for, our sense of structure in our lives. So that's very positive. The sun is in a sextile condition with Pluto right now and trining Mars. So, the sun might be taking a little bit of pressure. Our sense of purpose and the way we act on it might allow us to take a little bit of pressure off of that Mars opposite Pluto conflict and aggression right there. Okay, so remember your sense of purpose. Remember, why you do what you do in the world, and try to come to it in as like cooperative and willing a fashion as possible. Jupiter is sextile to Chiron, and that one's going on through June. So that's really a sense of hope and optimism that we can do better, that we can, as a collective and on our own, heal old wounds, solve longstanding problems. Okay, so that optimism says we want bigger, better things for ourselves and the community, and we can get there. Sometimes a little bit by checking ourselves before we wreck ourselves, right? And then the other thing that's going on is the sun is trine to Neptune. So if you're feeling really into your music right now, or really into your art, or really into your faith right now, if it feels like, there's grace in your life, if it feels like those coincidences are happening, or, things or people or opportunities are showing up that you couldn't have imagined were available. Sun is trine to Neptune. So that's not really out of the ordinary right now. Take those blessings and just be really thankful for them and do your best with them, okay? So today's astrology, Mercury's not moving on today. Mercury is going retrograde in Sagittarius. It's going to be retrograde in Sagittarius for the next 3 weeks. So that's a little bit intense already, because Sagittarius is a fiery energy. Sagittarius is a little famous for being bluntly honest, kind of saying the thing before they have really thought about how they're going to say it. Sometimes they're just like, I'm just going to tell the truth and let the chips fall where they may. And especially, Mercury in Sagittarius, that's that's a vibe that we all catch up with a little bit, and we all feel like, okay, I'm just going to say what I need to say. But with Mercury retrograde in Sagittarius, and again, Mercury is in opposition to Jupiter, Mars is in opposition to Pluto. Okay, so we have this little, take a beat, take a moment. And then with Mercury retrograde in Sagittarius, again, that guidance comes in. Take a beat, take a moment before you pop off, before you say more than than you mean to say, okay, before you say something that has a bigger consequence for somebody else or for yourself than you thought it would. Okay, let's just be really careful with our words. And also when Mercury is in retrograde, we want to be careful with our plans. We want to be careful not to, like, the thing is, the way you see things right now, the way the world looks to you, the way your life looks to you right now, it's going to get shaken up a little bit over the next several weeks. And it's not just because Mercury is retrograde, because Mars is going retrograde next week as well. And so if you get to the end of Mercury retrograde and you've made a bunch of major life choices, started a bunch of new contracts, or not, made a bunch of agreements, you might get to the end of that Mercury retrograde and say, oh, I realize why none of that stuff was for me, and now I'm back to square one and I have to start over. Okay, when things are retrograde, much like when the moon is void of course, it's just like you might be doubling up on your work if you try to like really make things happen. Mercury in retrograde is a time for review, reflection. And, most astrologers will say this. They'll be like, Mercury retrograde, that's, everything having to do with Mercury, which is your thoughts, plans, and communications, right? So reflection, review, just I know there are a million words and now I can't think of them. But, just like think about it again, think twice, plan twice, make a second plan if the first plan doesn't work. Okay. And then the other word that does come up for me with Mercury in retrograde is reading. Okay. So it's a good time, rather than trying to espouse a bunch of opinions or trying to, put ourselves and what we think forward into the world. Not that you can't do that, just that we really want to be careful how we use our words right now, because we can have a bigger impact than we think, okay? But it's a great time to read, because it's a great time to learn, to sort of brush up our understanding about the things that we're working on, the things that we're interested in the world, so that when that Mercury goes forward again, we kind of have the beginnings of a plan, and we can really start to see clearly, what we're going to do next. So Mercury retrograde in Sagittarius, the next 3 weeks, cross your T's, dot your I's, make double sure. Okay, if you're signing a contract, make sure you read the whole thing and agree to the whole thing before you sign it. Okay, that kind of stuff. Just be very careful about your words and your plans. Tomorrow, Venus is going to be in an adjustment energy with Jupiter. And Venus is the lower benefic. It's like, gimme. I like love. I can't get enough of these things, right? It's about the compensation. It's about the recognition that we like to receive. It's about the affection we like to receive, the gifts we like to receive. And then Jupiter is our greater benefic. It wants, it just expands everything it touches. It says, okay, you want this bigger, better, more, right? We're going to, supersize, we're supersize your dream. Okay. But this might be like, Venus in this adjustment energy with Jupiter feels a little bit like, am I asking for too much? Am I wanting too much? Am I being unrealistic about, where this, am I being unrealistic about where this can go, like relationships, or just having that recognition that you want, or getting that affection that you want, or getting that compensation that you want? Is there a possibility of going too far? We want to moderate ourselves, okay? Because sometimes we get the impression like, oh, if I can have anything I like, love, and can't get enough of, then I'm going whole hog. Don't do it, all right? Not right now. Just adjust your expectations a little bit, okay? Adjust your desires a little bit, and say, yes, I can have those bigger, better things for myself, but I'm not going to gobble it all up right now, okay? Wednesday, Sun trine Mars, very positive, very optimistic, and Mars is not quite retrograde yet. So this is really, our sense of purpose in a state of grace, in a state of allowing, with the things that we're taking action on. And that's very positive, especially for your work life, your social life, your civic life. If you want to take action in any of those things, it's a great time to socialize with others. You're much less likely to pop off and be aggressive, although that is still in the air, and we still have to, pay attention to ourselves and the way we behave. So, Sun trine Mars really just allows us to take action, especially on the things that we're working on in the world, and get some grace, let things happen very smoothly. Also on Wednesday, Venus is going to be square to Chiron. So that's a little bit about what we want and what is healing for us. And maybe those two things are not necessarily totally aligned. So again, there might be an adjustment we have to make, or, there might be a stop sign that goes up and you stop at the stop sign, but you then roll forward. Okay. So you notice what obstacle is coming up, and then you make an adjustment so that you can keep going forward with your plan. Saturday is the new moon in Sagittarius, so that will be Sun and Moon and Mercury retrograde in Sagittarius. Saturday is going to be the most Sagittarian vibe of the month. And so really pay attention. Pay attention to what inspires you. Pay attention to what makes you feel like your life can get, bigger and better. Pay attention to, sort of what you have and what your goals are. It's good at the new moon in Sagittarius to really dream big. And this is that new moon before the end of the year. So one of those new moons right before the end of the year. So it's a good time. It's an appropriate time to be thinking about next year and what you would like to achieve at that time. This is a time when we start to really think and plan and create what the next year is going to look like, and not saying that you need to have a plan and be ready to implement it on January 1st. That's not the way this works, but it is a time to really just start thinking about, it's like the waning crescent of the sun. It's really a time of year to be thinking about, what the future might hold for you. And after we think about it, then we start to make plans. And after we make plans, then we start to implement the plans, right? So there's a process here. It's not just like decide what I want to do and go get it, okay? This is the time to be thinking about the bigger, better things you want for yourself in your life next year. And then next Monday, Venus is going to be trine to Uranus. We're going to be really open to some surprises, some new information, or some upgrades in our life. Next week, we have Mercury cazimi, Mercury retrograde conjuncting the sun. So that's a moment of clarity in our Mercury retrograde. Next week, we have Mars turning retrograde, which is going to be a much longer retrograde and might offer us some unique challenges. Next week, Venus moves on into Aquarius. So Venus has been in very serious-minded Capricorn lately, truly thinking about, what our goals are and our sense of stability, and if the choices that we're making are getting us there, right? And now it's going to move on into Aquarius and get into problem-solving mode. Like, okay, well, that wasn't working, so here we're gonna try to get things in a way that that does work, that is efficient, that is also not like a burden to anybody else. And also next week, Neptune goes direct. So that's a whole lot going on. And I want to talk a little bit about these planets that are going retrograde and going direct, because what happens when they go retrograde or direct is they appear, from our perspective, to stand still in the sky. And that is when they pull the most power. That's when they pull the most attention. And that's when they have the most sort of power to affect our choices and our actions, the words that we speak, the creative actions that we take, or just the assertive actions that we take, or just the plans that we make, okay? So with Mercury standing still for a minute here, and then next week Mars is going to stand still, and then Neptune is also standing still, really right at the end of Pisces, where it is the very most powerful. Expect some creative inspiration to come along, okay? Expect some reasons to have faith to come along. Expect some surprises, though. Expect some miscommunications or some emphasis on the plans we make, again, the words we speak, and the actions that we take, okay? All right, that's all I have for you today. I will be back on Wednesday to discuss the astrology some more. I sure do appreciate you for being here, and I'll catch you all in the next video.